the Madman! And here's all the remaining cards that they didn't show on stream. Let's begin with Beaker Lightning, 0 mana Shaman spell. Deal 1 damage to all minions, overload 2. 2 mana Whirlwind? But it's kind of nice since you can play it for 0 mana, which means you can roll your totem, and then sometimes you'll get your spell damage totem. But overall, it is not good enough, I'd say, to actually justify being in a deck. Brainstormer, 3 mana, 3/1, Battlecry, gain +1 health for each spell in your hand. There are some decks out there which can get a pretty big hand of spells, but no decks out there can actually get a big enough hand of spells by turn 3. And for that reason, Brainstormer is just not going to see any play. You don't really want to play a late game Brainstormer either. There are a few decks out there which are spell heavy. Those are control decks that actually want a minion. Bulldozer! It's your pack filler big card. 9 mana, 9/7, Divine Shield Mech. It's just like Force Tank Mechs. Even though this is a mech set, it's not going to actually see play. Clock Scale Chemist I actually had to think about quite a bit. 2 mana, 1/2, Stealth Divine Shield. I was thinking about, would this card maybe see play as something that was very sticky on the board? You just hide it, and then as your Divine Spirit deck, slowly buff it up with Divine Spirit, and then like eventually inner fire it while your opponent can't interact with it. And I didn't see it. I thought like Divine Spirit decks would probably just run big health minion cards instead. A 1/2 Divine Shield isn't enough, so this should not actually see play. Crazed Chemist. I actually had to think about this card quite a bit too. 5 mana 4/4 combo, give a friendly minion +4 attack. 5 mana 4/4 and you get a Cold Blood with it. That's pretty competitive, but I looked at the most likely deck that this would see play in, which is Odd Rogue. And the comparable card is a 5 mana 3/4 combo play Assassinate. And this is combo play Cold Blood, and Assassinate is like valued at a 5 mana card, and Cold Blood is valued as a 1 mana card. And it's like, well, is this gonna kick out the Valspine Slayer? No. Is this gonna kick out the Cobalt Scalebane, which is sometimes played in that deck? No. Is this gonna kick out Fungalmancer? No. Even though it has the same stat value as Fungalmancer, Fungalmancer can be played on 5, and it's pretty tough to combo this. Is this going to be played in some sort of other tempo rogue deck that isn't Odd Rogue? No. So it's a decent card for its value, but I think there are better cards right now. Damage Stegatron, 6 mana 5/12, Mech Taunt. Battlecry deals 6 damage to this minion, so actually 6 mana 5/6 taunt, and not good at a 6 mana 5/6 taunt. So where you're really looking for values, either you can heal it back up, or you could bring it back with something like Kangor's Endless Army, in which case it'll just be a 5/12 back. You could recruit it from your deck, but I feel like for all these cases, there have been other cards similar to this, such as Witchwood Grizzly. Grizzly is better when played by itself, as opposed to this. A 6 mana 5/6 taunt is so bad, I don't think it's actually going to see play. Ectomancy, 6 mana Warlock spell, summon copies of all demons you control. So there are some Q block decks out there which do run Faceless Manipulator because, I mean, Faceless Manipulating a Void Lord or a Doomguard is really good. Ectomancy has to compete for that slot, so in order for it to beat that, you need to copy 2 of them. How likely is that? I'd say pretty unlikely. So I'm gonna put no on this one. Electrorite, 3 mana 3/3 Battlecry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, gain +1/+1. More likely to be a 4/4 at 3 mana if you're playing Big Spell Mage or something like that. But the main problem with decks that are playing big spells, they generally don't want a 3 mana 4/4. And also a big problem is that 3 mana 4/4 isn't even that unfair right now. So probably doesn't even beat the power curve. Elementary Reaction, Shaman card, spell, 2 mana, draw a card. Copy it if you played an elemental last turn. So it's Mimic Pod for 2 if you've played an elemental. That's really good for decks that play elementals. So I could see this seeing play in even Shaman. Nice card advantage, 2 mana, draw 2. Not good enough in Shudderwalk since they don't play enough elementals. Next, Glowstone Technician, 6 mana 3/4, Battlecry, give all minions in your hand +2/+2. So if you buff 2 minions in your hand, then the total stat value of this card is a 6 mana 7/8, but based on that being too slow, I don't actually think that it's good to play if you only have 2 minions left in your hand. This costs 6, so You've probably played already most of them. Now ultimately, given all of the chances we've had to play buff paladin, and this being a very bad meta to get value through slowness, because then you just lose to combo decks, and you still have the problem that old buff paladin had that you die to aggro decks, there's no way Glowstone Technician would see play. Hunter gets a very funny card. It's just a prank! It's a goblin prank, 2 mana. Give a friendly minion +3/+3 and rush. It dies at end of turn. Oh my god, what a cruel prank. So I evaluated this card considering a bunch of the Death Rattle cards, which is presumably what you would want to play the prank on. The main problem is most of these Death Rattle cards that are low cost, you're wasting the health value on the Death Rattle, which is kind of important. And also the Death Rattle usually wants to stick around, so you can play your synergy cards. Even if you play this on Devilsaur Egg, you're paying 5 mana on 2 cards to get a 5/5, which will end up dealing 3 damage. That's not that good. Even if you take a card that it theoretically should be really good on, such as Kindly Grandmother, then that's 4 mana to deal 4 damage, and you get a 3/2. That compares with Flanking Strike, but you had to use 2 cards on it when you play your cube. Goblin Pranking it isn't actually bad, and you deal 7 damage to something, you activate your cube. But with Play Dead, you still have your cube. With Goblin Prank, your cube is gone. So that's the main problem. I'm not really seeing the prank, though it is funny. Holomancer, 5 mana 3/3. After your opponent plays a minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. I think this is the worst card in this expansion. It's a 5 mana 3/3. There's no way this will ever see play. My goodness. I don't think it would see play at 4 mana. When I get around to doing my card rating system, I might have to consider busting out the 0-star category. It's gonna be a debate. Should there really be 0 stars possible for a card? Kaboom Bot, 3 mana 2/2. Death Rattle, deal 4 damage to random enemy minion, and it's a mech. This is kind of like Volatile Elemental. The main problem is the Death Rattle is slow, so if it were Battle Cry, it'd be awfully good, which is kind of the same case for Volatile Elemental, which would have been awfully good as a Battle Cry, but ends up being bad in Death Rattle form. Loose Specimen, 5 mana 6/6 with a drawback and a beast. Battle Cry deals 6 damage randomly split among other friendly minions. So if you have no other friendly minions, it is just a 5 mana 6/6, which is, you know, you might expect me to say good. It's above the stat curve, but 5 mana 6/6 vanilla would actually not see play in any deck right now. So you have to consider if there's a way to make that drawback into an upside. But overall, I think there's way better ways to activate your stuff than to run this 5 mana 6/6. Gunspire turret is hilarious, but no. Mecharoo! Hey, they actually saved a really good card for the card dump here. 1 mana 1/1, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Joey Bot. Both versions are mechs. It's the possessed villager from Warlock, except now it's neutral, and it's a mech, so this guy is gonna be helpful to pretty much any decks that want to use the mech synergy. It's not even just a card for these early game mech decks. It could just be a card that's for early game decks. And so 1 mana 1/1, which summons a 1/1. Ogrogue does run Argent Squire already, so we'll see whether or not they also fit Mecharoo in. And Mecharoo being a 1-cost card is probably going to speed up the possibility of this odd Paladin mech deck with Mecharoo as well as Glowtron, and then maybe running your War Gear as well. Microtech Controller is kind of your usual pack filler. I don't expect anything to come with it, even though it summons 2 1/1 mechs that you could magnetize. And it's 3 mana for 4/3 in stats across 3 1-health bodies. Meh. Piloted Reaper, 4 mana 4/3. Mech, Death Rattle, summon a random minion from your hand that costs 2 or less. So it's a more controllable Piloted Shredder. The big problem is that it pulls the card from your hand, which is quite a lot worse than Piloted Shredder. You're going down 1 in card advantage. No. Rocket Boots. 2 mana warrior card, give a minion rush, draw a card. So it's an improvement on charge, because 1 more mana to draw a card is really good. And it's a nice little cycle card. I'm not really seeing it as playable. Not really many things you really need to immediately charge or rush out, but it's a nice cute utility card. Rusty Recycler is a 5 mana 2/6 mech with taunt and lifesteal. It's comparable to Rotten Apple Bomb, and that is seeing some play. If you just attacked twice with Rusty Recycler or are attacked into twice, then it's the same as the Apple Bomb at 1 less stat. But just the fact that it's 1 less stat, I think you're gonna find people just run the Apple Bomb instead. And you could magnetize stuff onto this, and then you gain the benefit of lifesteal, but I feel like the mech decks aren't going to be really looking to value lifesteal too highly. Spark Drill, 6 mana 5/1 Rush Mech. Death Rattle, add 2 1/1 sparks with Rush to your hand. It's kind of like Starfire, except instead of drawing a card, you're drawing 2 1/1 sparks. And 2 1/1 sparks are less good than Starfire. It's also kind of like Cursed Castaway from Rogue, which I initially thought was going to see some amount of play, but it didn't at all. And instead of drawing the combo card, you are drawing 2 1/1 sparks with Rush. I'm not seeing any deck out there that probably wants to use the 6 mana deal 5 damage with Rush. And we also have Spark Engine. 2 mana 2/1 Mech, Battlecry, add a 1/1 spark with Rush to your hand. It's kind of like Firefly. Except it costs 2 mana. No. Spring Rocket, 3 mana 2/1, Battlecry, deal 2 damage. It's a mech, which is all it has going for it, really. The card you want to compare this with is Fireplume Phoenix, which at 1 mana more has 1 more attack and 2 more health. And given that Fireplume Phoenix is not seeing play, I think it's easy to see that Spring Rocket also will not see play, despite its mechiness. Steel Ranger, 4 mana 5/1 Rush Mech. Basically, it's a neutral 4 mana method to deal 5 damage to any deck. And I looked across a lot of different decks and wondered, do any decks want to play a 4 mana deal 5 damage to minion card? And the answer I came up with is no. Even Shaman, no. Even Warlock, no. Every other deck really has a more efficient way to deal 5 damage for 4 mana, or find a better use for 4 mana, I mean. Okay, maybe Quest Druid has a chance at it. Oaken Summons pulling this isn't bad. Topsy-Turvy is a very interesting priest card spell. 0 mana, swap a minion's attack and health. Most of the time in Divine Spirit Inner Fire decks, you were looking to play Inner Fire just as you were dealing the finishing blow. So getting a 0 mana card to do it, one that doesn't get killed by Skulking Geist. I mean, there was a Skulking Geist problem for some amount of time that priest decks actually ran Void Ripper. Now you can just run the 0 mana card. So, very nice. There's some utility to using it on opponent's minions, but pretty much you want to use it for Inner Fire purposes. I could see priests maybe switching up their composition of deck to 1 Inner Fire, 1 Topsy-Turvy, because Inner Fire still has value. Sometimes you don't finish the job in 1 hit, and then you just have a big minion sitting on the board. Next up, Toxicologist. I learned that Toxicologists are actually in real life, didn't know that. 2 mana 2/2, Battlecry, give your weapon +1 attack. Interesting applications with Candle Shot, curves out, and also in Kingsbane, another card you can consider putting in. Whether or not it'll see play in the Candle Shot decks, I'm thinking no, doesn't quite have enough impact. And then in Kingsbane, I don't think Kingsbane will be much of a competitor. Unpowered Mauler, 2 mana 2/4 Mech, can only attack if you cast a spell this turn. So a 2 mana 2/4 vanilla card with this would easily just be trashed here and not even thought about, but the fact that it's a mech, most mechs want to be cleared by your opponent, so it's 2 mana 2/4 at least. You might be able to play this in a mech deck that has enough spells that you can activate. So I could see some reasoning behind like this not being absolute trash. But yes, you would just run upgradable Framebot instead. Has slightly better stats than upgradable Framebot, but not by enough that you would want to run this with the downside. Venom Iser. This is a really good mech card for Hunter. 2 mana 2/2 Magnetic Poisonous. It's like Emperor Cobra, but at just 1 mana less and 1 less health. You can pretty much kill anything with it. And it's magnetic, so you can actually put it onto any card. Interesting applications if you were to put it to Rocket Launcher guy, then you can constantly clear the board. But yeah, I see Venom Iser seeing play in the Mech Hunter deck. Violet Haze, 3 mana, add 2 random Death Rattle cards to your hand. I initially was just gonna write this card off because Burgle takes 2 random cards from your opponent's class, and it felt like 2 random Death Rattle cards are probably less good, but you can actually get the class Death Rattle cards with this, and class Death Rattle cards are pretty good. But that said, it's still just like Burgle, not quite good enough. and we'll probably not see any play. And finally, Whirly Glider, 2 mana 2/1, Battlecry summon a 0/2 Goblin Bomb. Given our analysis of Goblin Bomb, that it is less good than Murloc Raider, and about the same as a 1/2, you can compare this card with Murloc Tidehunter, which is a 2 mana 2/1 which summons a 1/1, and this is probably slightly better than that, but not enough to actually see play. And that's it, that's all the cards! So I'm going to be putting together my star rating on all of these cards now that we finally see all of the mech cards. I've already been thinking about, how are all these classes going to play with mechs? Are the mechs going to be a major impact in this set? Now that I see all of them, how about these legendary spells? Do they synergize enough? Are we going to get some different decks out there? So stay tuned for Trump reviews. This set has a lot of really weird effects, so Trump reviews might be a little bit off. We'll see. The good and the bad times, we've been through them all. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around. The Inspira, Wheezing Seal, Gyarados Slowbro, gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all.